Apart from that, I also had visited earlier, which is not mentioned earlier, but then I happened to go as a honorary visiting faculty at Department of Yogic Sciences at Dr. H.S. Gaur Central University, Sagar, Madhya Pradesh, for last couple of years, almost more than 10 years plus. So while teaching to the students of maybe BA, BSc or MA, MSc Yoga, or even PhD scholars of that particular university, and also at the places like Somaya, I had been some time back, not yesterday's lecture, I'm saying much, much earlier. And also when I was connected as a faculty at Yoga Vidya Niketan in our own, my mother institute basically. So while learning as well as teaching, because I believe that we never end up as a student. I still feel myself to be a student only, and I wish to learn from all of you, from everyone, because maybe one particular point which is not known to me, I can pick up from you all, and that can improve whatever knowledge, whatever information I have, that can be fortified. So while discussing, while teaching, while interacting with the students and the other colleagues, other professors in the university or in that particular institutions, I felt that the common program which has been usually conducted not only in particular A or B or C institute, but probably it's a common phenomenon in throughout India, that whenever we speak about yoga program, whether it is TTC, to which we call teachers training course, as all of you are also aware of, or it could be certificate, or it could be diploma or advanced diploma, or even yoga teacher, and furthermore then it goes and progresses to yoga therapist. So in all these particular setup, what we usually see is basically module uh, pertaining to yoga and pertaining to modern medicine. And surprisingly, we could see that the locus or the focus about knowing Ayurveda in yogic context is somewhere missed out. Okay. So that's how when Menon sir asked me to speak, and particularly he only gave this very specific topic, that why don't we have topic on Ayurveda and yoga. And I would like to thank him, because of him, I think this kind of discussion we are taking place on this particular platform. So first of all, at the outset, I would like to thank organizers and the main key people of Thane School of Yoga and Menon sir for inviting me over here. And then today what we are going to speak is, can there be any possibility of inculcating Ayurveda as a separate focus for learning yoga at both levels, at yoga teachers and yoga therapists? So with that, we go ahead. And this is what I'm sure everyone is familiar with these two photos. And this is Dhanvantari, Lord Dhanvantari, who is considered to be god of
Sir,
not just Ayurveda.
sir, sharing नाही झालेलं आहे. Please share.
Neither. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. I thought it is already been done. Okay, sorry. One sec. Give me a moment. वन सेक, हाँ यहाँ से शेयर करना है ना. वन सेक. शेयर स्क्रीन. Now is it visible? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Sorry. I just kept from the mind. So sorry. Yeah. So this is the snap of Lord Dhanvantari, and this is a snap of Patanjali Muni, right? So it's not just god of Ayurveda per se, but it's a god of medicine all over. And if you happen to go to Mumbai and particularly Bombay Hospital, and on the top, the front gate, you see the statue of Dhanvantari over there. One of the topmost well-known per se modern medical institution. Even they have this particular statue. In Ayurvedic institution, definitely we have statue of Dhanvantari. If you come to my clinic, you will see statue of Dhanvantari. So with, I'm sure Dr. Sanjay and my other Ayurvedic colleagues, those who are probably there in the audience. So they are all aware of. And here you can see Patanjali. Okay. Now, when you see the prayer, which we otherwise say in the beginning of the class, and we all are aware of the translation also, Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacha, Malam Sharirasya Chavaidhyakena, Yopakarottam Pravaram Muninam, Patanjali, Pranjali, Ranatosmi. Now, Padena Vacha is for Panini, and that is for grammarian. Okay, so Patanjali was the same personality who has worked on Mahabhashya of that of Panini. Okay, so that is first line. Second, Malam Sharirasya Vaidyakena means some people, some scholars, they feel that he is the same person, Patanjali Muni is the same one, who is nothing but Charak Muni. Charak Muni, the one who has written Charak Samhita. Now in Ayurveda, when you want to learn Ayurveda, you require to know some basic texts of Ayurveda in original, in Sanskrit, and then you may understand it by the virtue of reading the translations and other aspects. But Charaka was the person with the similar of that of Patanjali. And then finally, the one Patanjali to whom we recognize with, to whom we know with, who is famous for compiling the Sutra, Patanjali Yoga Sutra. So very basic, very beginning, we know that there is a connection between Ayurveda and yoga because of one reason, that the originator, the one who has worked on either these two disciplines, they are one at the same. Now, I'll not get into the historical debate. Okay, there may be possibility of historical debate, whether the period of Patanjali Muni was the same as that of Charaka and what, that will not get into. Okay, but at least there is a mention, so that part we have to keep in mind. Now coming to our subject, that we say that our pratijna is, today's pratijna means our Vishay Vastu is that we are supposed to learn how Ayurveda can be inculcated, how Ayurveda can be studied by yoga teachers and yoga therapists, right? So if we want to know any particular discipline to know about, then like, for example, if you are a student of biology, say 11th or 12th science biology, the first thing what we do, we try to understand the definition part of that particular discipline. Unless you don't understand the discipline, the definition of that particular discipline, you can't go ahead. So in biology, for example, bios and logos is the science of living creatures. So the biology, right? So likewise, Ayurveda is derived from two terms, that is Ayusho Veda, Ayurveda. That is the Vyutpatti. Okay. So Ayusho Veda, Ayurveda means what? So Ayu means life. And Veda is a term which is again coming from Sanskrit term. And I'm sure most of you must be aware that Vedas are like 4 Vedas, Apaurushya, is not written by any human person and all that we all know, right? But what is the meaning of Veda? The very basic meaning of Veda is to be understood by knowing the root value, or to which we speak in Sanskrit dhatu. Kuthla dhatu pasun to shabda banla hai. So what is the root value of that particular term? So that is vid. Vid is a dhatu. Vid means to know, right? So to know about life is Ayurveda. Ayu plus Ved, that is Ayurveda. Okay. Then it has been also said that it is not just anything else, but it's a Upangam Atharva Vedasya. So as we know that there are Rigveda, then Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharvaveda. Atharvaveda is supposed to be the last one in the series, comparatively latest one. in Atharva Ved, there are many references with regards to your anatomy and physiology of human body. Then there are certain references of certain diseases. Then certain references of various, botanical herbs, botanicals, which are to be utilized for the treatment part. And apart from that, it also discusses about certain other aspect of therapies, which are termed as mantra, yajna, bali, homa, and all that kind of stuff. So that is collectively termed as Atharvana Chikitsa. Atharvan Chikitsa. And within that, you can see the roots of Ayurveda, because so many things. One of our sir, he has done his first pioneering work and first PhD in Ayurveda on this particular aspect, how Ayurveda and Atharveda are linked up. Okay, Dr. Sardeshmukh sir, I'm sure most of you must be probably aware. He has been famous for running, cancer therapy center at Wagholi, Pune. So coming down to next part. So this is what is Ayurveda Upangam Atharvavedasya. So it's a Upanga, okay, or Upaved. Sometimes some people, they also call it as Upaved. Like Dhanurved is Upaved. Like, your Jyotish is also considered to be Upaved. So like Gandharva is considered to be Upaved. Similarly, according to some scholars, they say even Ayurveda is also termed as to be Upaved. It is again considered as Ved because it has not been written by any human being. It has been, what you can say, it was remembered by God, remembered by those deities. And then it was been given in a form of, what you can say, not lectures in current scenario, we may say, but then not lecture, but Upadesh. Okay. So Brahma Smrutvo Yushoveda Prajapatim Tam Ajigrahit. And then there is a sequence like Brahma has remembered certain things and then given Upadesh to Brahma Smrutvo Yushoveda, that is Ayushoveda, that is Ayurveda. Prajapati, then he gave it to Prajapati, then it gave it to Indra, and likewise that comes down. And when it happened, actually, there, like in today's era, every one of us, we are getting scared because of whether now Delta and Lambda and whatnot variants of COVID would come, and what will be the situation next, whether human race will survive or not. So something similar had happened then around 5,000 years back. Okay, 1000 BC, not 5000 AD, 5000 BC. And in that time, there was a devastation of the Janapada. Janapada means cities. And they have said why it must have happened. So they have said there were many factors, particularly ethical factors, which were not playing in order. And apart from that, there were other many factors like pollution and whatnot. And then the entire cities used to get devastated. And all the Rishimunis, all wise people, they come together and they discuss on that. So that times they probably had first symposia, first conference on what to do on this particular issue. Like we see, task force people, they come together and they give their deliberations on TV or other platforms. So in that, it was decided that there should be a person who should approach Indra or God, and then they should seek opinion, they should seek blessing, they should seek advice from them. But when a person would go over there, he should be wise enough, he should be very intellectual, so that once that person utters, that God utters certain thing, he should not, forget anything. He should bring all that message as it is to humankind. And then Atreya Punarvasu was selected amongst that particular group. And then he reached and then he learned from all these people by verbal way. Those people, they advise and he listened and then he grasped it, he remembered, memorized it, and then he down the line taught to other disciples of him. And that's how the entire progression of Ayurveda took place, right? So this is what is the history part. Now coming down to why it is to be learned, why it is to be studied. And in that you can see the first sutra I have put down in front of you, that dharmartha kama mokshanam arogyam moolamuttamam. So if you want to achieve moksha or kama or dharma, then what you should have is arogya. If your arogya, if your health is not at maximal level, then neither you will be able to do any ritualistic aspect, nor you're doing able to achieve sensual aspect, nor you're going to get liberated, right? So for doing that, you require to have a proper health. And for having that proper health, what is there is nothing but the science which will make you sure that you will remain healthy throughout your lifespan. Now, if you ask me what is the definition of Ayu, now Ayu is equal to life is very easy way to explain with. But if you go even little depth, then Ayu is a term, Ayu, ete iti Ayu. So from the first breath to the last breath, when a baby gets born from the mother's womb, and when baby comes out, when the gynec or that doctor who delivers the baby, and then we pat that baby. We try to remove all that flame and other things which is there inside the nose, inside the mouth. And unless that baby doesn't make first cry, then things are not over. And the baby, if doesn't cry, then the doctors and sisters starts crying, right? Because once the baby starts crying, the first cry itself will start the first breath, right? So first breath to the last breath till that baby dies, that span is termed as Ayu, right? And Ayurveda is that branch which takes care of the health or holistic health, to be more specifically, of that person. Okay. Now, what is when we say arogya, then we should know what is arogya and what is anarogya, what is disease condition and what is healthy condition, right? So, sukha saudnyakam arogyam vikaro dukkham evacha. That is another sutra comes in Charaka. Now, sukha saudnyakam arogyam vikaro dukkha. Wherever there is a prachiti of sukha, experience of sukha. Now, sukha means not happiness or joy. Unfortunately, many a times we translate, even in yogic context, that sukha means joy. Sukha means sometimes people they also translate as bliss, but again, bliss is not sukha. Bliss is ananda in that anandamay kosh context. Okay, here it has to be particularly pleasure or joy, you may say, but then with reference to what? With reference to it can't be okay, I'm giving you another example. You think of sitting in a room or you're writing answer papers and that entire room doesn't have fan and it's a month of April or May. Huh? But anyway, you can't leave that particular place because you have to write your answers and move out of the that particular exam hall. And it is very painful. It is very painful. But at the same time, if you are able to write all answers and not just write all answers, but write in a great way, because oh my goodness, whatever I have studied yesterday night till yesterday night, same thing has appeared in my answer question paper. So oh, it's a big lottery, so I am supposed to write, though it is giving me pain because there is no fan, no ventilation properly, but I am so happy within and I'm writing till the end of last bell. So you're getting me what I'm trying to say. So sometimes physically you're not in great way, but mentally you are happy. So usually sukha and dukkha is connected with manas or it is connected with mind. Okay. Sharira anukula mano anukula vedaniya janyam sukham. That is the definition. Mana anukula vedaniya janyam sukham. And mano pratikula vedaniya janyam dukkham. If a person is going for Himalaya trekking, right, then he is aware that if I go to particular peak and if there is, say, landslide or there is some, now you must have seen the news on TV that in Himachal, so many people died One of our Ayurvedic colleague also died in that particular bus. So once you are aware that when you are going to high peaks, you may lose your limbs because of frostbite. You may have asphyxia. You will not be able to breathe properly. But still, you would like to go. And when you go to that particular peak and put that your flag, oh my goodness, I have achieved great thing. So that achievement is not connected with your physical aspect. It is connected with your mental aspect. So sukha is mano anukula vedaniya janyam sukham. And here in this line, they have specified that aspect. Whereas in second line, second sutra, you can see vikaro dosha vaishamyam, dosha samya arogata. So dosha means there are three dosh, which I'm sure most of you are aware of, vata, pitta and kapha. And when they are in a equilibrium, when they are in a in a samyavastha, then it is arogata, it is arogyam. But when they get deflected, when there is a imbalance, then there is a vikara. So that part we have to keep in mind. Now here I would also like to take your attention towards another interpretation by Chakrapani, who is commentator for our Charak Samhita. He has mentioned at particular place that dosha has to be also considered with the terms dhatu. Now we'll see what dosha and dhatu are in our subsequent slides. But just remember that whenever we say dosha vaishamya, it is not just dosha vaishamya. It is dosha vaishamya, dhatu vaishamya, agni vaishamya. All those factors needs to be understood. Then when we say vyadhi or roga, then what are those? And again in Ayurveda, one of the texts, they have given the synonyms. We know now we have got a lot of synonyms. So roga papa joro vyadhi vikaro dukkhamamaya yakshma tanka gadabadha shabda paryayi vachina. So these are various shades to understand what disease is according to Ayurveda. Okay, and why I'm putting this particular slok, not just to add one more slok, oh, so that to feel, oh, Dr. Phadke is very good at Sanskrit, he can chant those slok. No, not for that. Can you find out something close to your mind, close to your heart when you're reading Yoga Sutras, this particular term, Vyadhi. Now, Vyadhi is one of the part which our Sutra, Patanjali Sutra has very specifically mentioned in Antaraya. The very first Antaraya is Vyadhi. And what is that Vyadhi? Then many a times, sorry to say, but many a times we see some distorted translations. I'm sorry, I'm using this very harsh terms, but I have been, like posed to some translations saying that glandular problems and glandular disease and whatnot. From where they have found this, God only knows, and those translators probably knows. The real meaning of Vyadhi is this. So Vyadhi means roga, Vyadhi means Jwara. Jwara is one of the specific Vyadhi, but Jwara has been given name because it has got a vast canvas. But Vikara, Vyadhi, Roga, Dukkha, Amaya, then Atanka, Badha, Gada, all these are synonyms. So whenever, even in yogic text, when you read this, then we need to understand the real meaning in that particular way. Is it clear on this particular page? Is there any queries? We can take queries there and there itself. Then coming down to another point, that is whether Ayurveda is having any specific specialization or just Ayurveda means jadi buti ka dawa. Whether Ayurveda has got side effects. Oh my goodness, Ayurveda is the one which kills your kidneys and livers. You see the current problem, which you must have seen in Times of India, that your Guduchi or Giloy is firing your liver and this and that. No, it's not like that. Ayurveda has got full-fledged 8 different disciplines within. I repeat, Ayurveda has full-fledged 8 different disciplines within. And what are those? They have been discussed by many people, many texts like in Sushruta Samhita, in Ashtanga Sangra and Ashtanga Hridaya. They have mentioned Kaya Bala Graurdvanga Shalya Janshra Jaravrishan Ashtavangani Tasyahu Chikitsa Yeshu Sanshita. So these are 8 different. And what are those? So Kaya Chikitsa is internal medicine. Bala Roga Kaumaravriti is pediatrics, and Stri Roga Prasuti Tantra. This is one. This is not separate. So first, second. So this is Gynac and Ops. Then Graha Chikitsa or Bhuta Vidya. That is another way. So Graha Chikitsa speaks about psychiatry. It also speaks about parapsychology, and it also speaks about medical astrology. So these three are various possibilities to correlate with. There is another possibility which I have not mentioned because I have prepared this slide late night around 2 o'clock yesterday. So that I have missed out, but I recalled now. So I'm saying microbiology, Ayurvedic microbiology, not the microbiology which you learn and study with Pelzar and all. I don't know whether there are any microbiologists in the group, but then not the way in which we study microbiology in today's context, like gram negative, gram positive, staining, then agar-agar plate and all that stuff. Okay. They had their own way of explaining microbes, and micro organisms are not seen easily, right? Unless you have microscope to see with. And in that sense, they are there, they are showing their effect, but they are not seen. In that sense, it is a bhuta. And when it is there and they are creating diseases, then the discipline which tells you how to control them, how to conquer them, how to manage them is a Bhuta Vidya in that sense. Okay, so Graha Chikitsa is very directly to astrology and also psychiatry and parapsychology. Okay, then Urdhvanga Tantra or Shalakya Tantra means it is discipline which speaks about the area above your this Jatru means clavicle, above clavicular region, whatever organs are there, that is covered under this Urdhvanga Tantra. This is also termed as Shalakya Tantra because we use small shalakas or small instruments to deal with these kind of diseases. So that is ophthal, ENT, dentistry, and even neurology. Then Shalya is general surgery, orthopedics, and plastic surgery. Danshtra Chikitsa, that is your toxicology and jurisprudence. So various kinds of bites, snake bite, scorpion bite, and so many things they have mentioned, and they have given the treatment modality. Jara Chikitsa, that is geriatrics, how one should treat aged people, because uh, those time, 5,000 years back, they were aware that the medication to be given to adult individuals, say 30 years old or 20 years old or 40 years old, cannot be the same to those who are 80 plus or 70 plus. Okay, so that aspect was been taken care in Jara Chikitsa. Geriatrics is the latest branch comparatively in modern medicine. Then Vajikaran Tantra or Vrishya Chikitsa or Rasayan Chikitsa, they are in one head. So commonly people they are aware of rejuvenation therapy, aphrodisiac therapy, and also pro-host therapy. Now, aphrodisiac is very commonly spoken, but it is not just limited to that, because we say that these particular branch, if you study properly and if you know how to identify what kind of problems that person have, and then if you give them rejuvenation with the help of rasayan drugs. Rasayan is a very technical term in Ayurveda. Rasayan is not chemical. In Marathi, in Hindi, we call rasayan. Yachat rasayana bharliyat. Rasayan means not chemical. Here, rasayan is termed as rasayanam to yad dravyam yad jara vyadhi vinashanam, is that particular drug which keeps disease process and aging process away from the person. So you can understand the large canvas and importance of these particular branches. Now you must be wondering why I'm saying all these to you, because our today's topic is not the branches of Ayurveda or Ayurveda in general, but we are supposed to relate it to yoga and yoga therapy and yoga teachers basically. Here I would like to take your attention to that in Kaya Chikitsa and to some extent in Graha, you have role of yoga, right? And even in the Rasayana, some way, not direct way, indirect way, you have got a role of yoga. Now in Kaya Chikitsa, we have got something known as Naishtiki Chikitsa. So that Naishtiki Chikitsa is nothing but connected with yoga in very great way. Same way, Rasayan Chikitsa, it is divided into two. One is with drugs, without drug, Dravya Rupa, Adravya Rupa. Now the second part, that is Adravya Rupa Rasayan Chikitsa, speaks about Sadachar, Sat Achar. Sadachar. Now that Sadachar is nothing but yoga, and the first Yama Niyama can be considered into that particular zone. So in that sense, it is very much similar. Now coming down to what is the aim and object of Ayurveda. So the aim and object of Ayurveda is Swastasya Swasthya Rakshanam Aturasya Vikara Prashamanam. Now already we have seen what is Vikar, but now let us go to another very important concept which has been specified in Ayurveda, that is why it is to be learned. So they are saying it is for maintaining the health of healthy individual and then to regain the health of the diseased one. So it is not initially proclaimed for therapeutic purpose, but for the preventive purpose. Those who follow Ayurveda properly, along with the component of yoga in their lifestyle, then they will not fall sick. But if at all they fall sick, then yes, this is the prescription. Ayurveda is the way, along with yoga, to make sure that they will be converted from disease condition to that of healthy condition. Is it clear? So this is the aim and object of Ayurveda per se. Now, what is the definition part of Ayurveda? I have said in the beginning that what is the definition, like biology. So here they are saying that hita hitam sukham dukkham ayuh tasya hita hitam manam cha taccha yatroktam ayurveda sauchyate. What is this? So hita and ahita. So useful and non-useful. Sukha and dukkha, already we spoke about sukha dukkha, right? With reference to whom? So it is with reference to the ayu, that life of that particular person. And ayushasya, ayustasya, ayutasya. Tasya is a Shashti Vibhakti. Shashti Vibhakti in Sanskrit, it denotes that it is for sachi se, maza maze, iska uske, in that sense, right? So hitakar, ahitakar, sukhakar, dukkhakar चीजों को करना with reference to, with special reference to वो जो बंदा है उसके आयुष्य के परिप्रेक्ष्य में, हिंदी में अगर कहे तो, so with reference to that person's life and how it is to be undertaken. Is it to be undertaken arbitrarily? Because many a times, many of our colleagues, they say, oh, Ayurveda is great, yoga is great, but it's not standardized. So how we can believe that it is a science? So the answer for them, that manam, that is manam, I have mentioned here, that manam is a term for standardization. If you see the government ads of Maniki Karan Sansthan, that is standardization, that particular institution. So you have got, what is that? On your, condiments and all, you get that stamp that it is standardized. So that
Pramanikaran
or Manikikaran. So Manam is the term for standardization. So with specific measures, not just kuch bhi kitna bhi khaiye. With that, where it has yatra uktam, that discipline where it has been specified with specific measures about hita ahita kara, sukha dukkha kara, what kind of stuff they have mentioned. So they have specified about ahar, they have specified about vihar, they have specified about aushadhi. So all. Okay. So, and when I speak about vihar, then definitely yoga is very, very important mainstay. Okay. Ayurveda speaks about separately Vyayam also. So Ayurveda knows the difference between Vyayam and yoga. Right? But when we say Vyayam and yoga, even in that, it needs to be given in a proper measure, specific measure. So that is mentioned in the definition part itself of that of Ayurveda. Unfortunately, many Ayurvedic people will also not pay attention to this while explaining to other colleagues. So let us be very, very specific about it. Now coming down to the definition part of swastha, that is holistic health. So what is that? Samadosha, samagnisha, samadhatu, malakriya, prasanna, atma, indriya, manaha. I'm sorry, prasanna, atra, mana is missing here. Swastha iti abhidhyate. Okay. So first line, if you see, it is samadosha, sama agni, samadhatu, and sama malakriya. Okay. So sama means not equal to. Sama means samyak, appropriate way. Samyak. Sama means not is equal to. It is not like 33.33% Vata Pitta Kapha. No, not in that way. Okay. And if you see that, so this line signifies physical health. Okay. Whereas second line signifies your Atma, that is spiritual health, Indriya, that is your particularly Jnana Indriya, Mana, that is again mind, and that is giving your mental and spiritual health. So it is a definition which is more comprehensive and more complete. Vis-a-vis, if you see the definition of WHO, they say it is just, you can see that there is absence of disease or infirmity. That is what they say. But here we are going a step ahead. And now the latest addition of the definition of health, according to WHO, Dr. Bhattacharya from Calcutta, he has amended that social, mental, physical, along with that he has added spiritual. Though it is not reflected in all the websites and most of the places, you can't see, you just see physical, mental and social health, or even sexual health at certain parts, right? So that is what is the idea of swastha. Now pay attention to this particular term swastha. This is made up of two terms, swa and stha, where swa means denotes yourself, right? And stha denotes sthiti. Sthiti is that position. So when a person gets born on this particular planet, by and large, usually that person is having health without any disease. Now you will ask me how it is possible, doctor, because I know certain people, they come, they get birth with a hole in the heart, huh? Or some people, they have got cleft palate. Okay, I agree with you, but these are exceptions to rules. By 99.99%, most of them, they are getting birth with a healthy way, and that healthy way is the sthiti, swastha, that is the sthiti to be maintained, to be followed. And if you see tadadrashtu swarupe avasthanam, now the context is different, I understand, because we try to see swarupe means to purusha or to consciousness, conscious singularity per se. But even if you try to compare these two definitions, you will see some striking similarity in their conceptual framework. Then, okay, this is the WHO definition which I was referring to. So health is a state of complete physical, mental, social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So that is what they say, but we are going much ahead of that. Okay. Then coming down to basic concepts which are common in yoga and Ayurveda. So one of the very important concept in Ayurveda is Panchamahabhut theory. And based on Panchamahabhut, you have to have generation of Tridosha theory. So these are Akash, Vayu, Agni, Jala and Prithvi. And I have deliberately not translated them as Akash as ether and Vayu as air and Agni as fire and Jala as water and Prithvi as earth. Because, okay, for Westerners to make them feel easy, many people, they have tried to translate it in that way, but then it has limited your understanding, right?